family in Germany. So we're pretty fortunate. We've got actually now, I want to say we're right at 8,500 employees globally. We've grown a lot. I started my career at this company 15 years ago, and I've been gone for about 10 years. And the company is 4 times the size it was when I left 10 or 11 years ago, which is pretty incredible. So it's grown a lot. We've got a distribution network, shipping into over 100 countries. And then we've got a diverse range of products, which I won't go into too much detail there. This is kind of, if you're a student and, you guys, I'm sure have got a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of disciplines that you're involved in your academic careers. How we do our business is important because those are the career opportunities that it creates, right? So of course, we've got to produce all these birds that we sell, and we sell a lot of parent stock. So we've got lots of opportunities for people who are interested in the production of chickens and in the sort of nitty-gritty, keeping chickens healthy, keeping them productive. But we also have, once we sell our chickens, we've got fairly substantial groups of teams who have various different skills. Maybe it's someone with feed milling expertise. Maybe it's someone with hatchery and incubation expertise, or someone with some really specific breeder knowledge. So, we don't just sell the product. We've got some pretty comprehensive teams that once the product's out there, they're out there making sure that product succeeds and our customers stay happy and hopefully buy from us again. We have lots and lots, here in the United States, I grew up in Africa, and, the Ross Guards would be published. And of course, Ross is one of our brands. The Ross Guards would be published, and, people in the United States, they look at these guides and think, okay, thank you. That's nice information. In some parts of the world, those guides, when they come out and say, hey, this is how a chicken should grow, and this is how you should feed it, and it is the Bible, right? So the people who put these things together carry a lot of responsibility. And these are the experts that we employ in various different kind of functions and roles. But there's people all around the world who take this expert advice and really build a living off of it in their businesses, right? So pretty important roles. And I think we as a company have really dedicated ourselves to saying, we will not just provide a great product, we'll provide hopefully some of the world's best experts to support those products. And of course, those are great career opportunities, especially if you like getting on an airplane. All right, just to give you a sense, this stuff here, it's kind of, we're a global company, right? So there's lots of dots on the map is what it comes down to, right? We've got distributors all around the world. And if you think about it, we run, we've got a host of commercial products. Those same commercial products that have to perform in Mississippi or Alabama or North Georgia, those exact same products we're shipping all around the world. They've got to perform in Peru, on the beach with no, they're running salt water basically out of the ocean with a reverse osmosis system in a desert. And that's how they feed chickens and grow chickens on the coast of Peru. And those same birds have got to go to the jungles of Malaysia, and they've got to perform in Malaysia. So it's really, that just looks like a bunch of dots on the map. But it really is amazing what these birds are able to do. We can put them in just about any environment, and they're able to thrive. Now, of course, we do a lot to control the environment in commercial poultry production, but those genetics, it's incredibly robust what they're able to do. But it is really a global business. You've got Abby sitting there in the way down under, and dealing with some of the same problems we'd deal with on a daily basis here, right? So truly a global business, and really made global and really brought together by the genetics. We've got the identical genetics going all over the world, people dealing with the exact same product. So pretty cool, and gives a lot of pride to the folks at Aviagen, I know that. Hey, this is just kind of some market information here. There's about 100 million parent stock in North America, about 100 million in Latin America. And of course you get to Asia and you've got some pretty big markets over there. The cool thing about our industry, and you've already gotten into poultry, right? So a lot of you probably understand the poultry industry, and a lot of you have decided, hey, I want to make a career in poultry. I had a pretty eccentric Italian grandmother who, when I had zero interest in poultry, I had no background in poultry whatsoever, landed in poultry, and she was very happy, and I could never understand why. And in her mind, she said, hey, people have to eat, and chickens are good to eat, and people are going to eat, and that's a good thing. You made a good choice. So we're in a great industry, right? Not just the fact that people have to eat, but we're in an industry of mostly down-to-earth, good people. They care about the animals. They care about the environment. They care about their customers. So I'll say this, someone with very little poultry background before I came to the United States, it is a tremendous industry and a tremendous career path, because you're dealing with for the vast majority, just great people who generally want to do the right thing. So we're very fortunate in that sense as well. I'll talk a little bit. We try to run a host of brands because we feel like that diversity is great for our portfolio, right? So you're in the United States here, you'll probably really mostly know about the Ross brand, but we do maintain a series of other brands. Arbor Acres has a long history here in the United States and around the world of being a top-notch genetics. And then, nowadays what you see more and more of these sort of specialty products, right? So there's a growing demand for slow-growing chickens. And so we maintain a range of options for customers who have interest in slow-growing chickens. And then our geneticists and some of our commercial people over the years have really realized having a range of males brings massive flexibility to our customers. So if you're interested in more yield, we've got a male for that. If you're interested in more feed conversion, we've got a male that can really drive feed conversion. So we've got a broad portfolio, which is maybe, if you're familiar with our competitor, you'll know they've kind of taken a different path, right? And so they chose a different way of attacking the market, but we maintain a wide range of products. I think here in the United States, we produce 14 commercial products. So I know some of our, the folks in the world who would like to see the chicken industry struggle, they talk about how narrow our genetics has become and how we only have 2 breeds in the marketplace. Couldn't be further from the truth, right? In fact, the matter is we've actually enhanced genetic diversity over the years. We maintain a whole host of pure lines and then 14 commercial products, as I said. A couple of things, I'm going to talk, this is pretty cool actually, so bear with me here. The Aviagen has really made it, like if you're a big pharmaceutical company, human pharma, you maybe spend 15, 20% of your revenue on R&D because making drugs is your business, right? And so R&D is kind of your business. If you're Aviagen, people think, well, you produce breeding stock for chickens. I mean, we spend north of 10% of all of our revenue on R&D, but if you sort of dig around and look at a lot of companies out there, that's a lot. Okay, that's a lot. So of course, you got to pay all of our people. We got to produce the product we sell, and there's some part left over that's profit. And we say, hey, 10% of everything we sell, we're going to put into R&D. Not a lot of companies can make that kind of commitment. We're pretty fortunate to do that, but the results are great also, right? So we've really benefited. I think our company is stronger than ever because of years of really comprehensive R&D investment. So a couple of the cool things we've done, I'll just pick out a couple here. This is a list. Hopefully the text isn't too small for everyone to see, but go back into the late 80s, and we started deploying X-ray technology, right? We knew that it was pretty common for chickens to have leg defects. And as they grew faster and as they started to develop more yield, so those leg defects were more likely to manifest. And so actually, I think that Lexoscope technology was developed by NASA. I believe it was for use in space. And here we were using it for chickens, right? Well, I say I'm using that pretty generously. This is, the folks back then were very visionary. We started using ultrasound, right? So how do you select for yield if you don't get to measure the yield? And you got to kill a chicken to measure yield, right? So we had some smart folks who decided to use ultrasound. In the United States today, just about every home has an oximeter because we're worried about oxygen carrying capacity and everyone's worried about COVID. Well, we've been using the oximeter since the early 90s, right? And that had a lot to do with heart and lung function and growing birds at high altitude, right? So they're able to kind of meet their oxygen needs for growth at high altitude and avoid ascites. So lots of cool stuff. I know Frank is on here. He'll get pretty excited to talk to you about the CT. So, if you have a serious injury or some kind of medical condition, not uncommon to get a CT scan at a hospital. So we scan all of our individual pedigree candidates and use the information from those scans to develop breeding values for those individuals. So really pretty cool, right? We can measure the size of any given organ. We can measure the density of muscle, which may have implications for meat quality. And of course, we can measure the volume of muscle. So we're able to select for yield using that. So really cool stuff. And then, over time, I think one thing I'd, maybe point out, there's lots of cool other milestones on this list. Selecting for welfare-associated traits is something we've always been doing. I think our industry takes a lot of flack about welfare, and I think it's something all of us, and all of you young people getting into the industry, we have to take welfare very seriously, right? And I think people who get into agriculture generally care about animals. And so I think we've got the right foundation, but we have to be able to tell a story, right? I think the story of welfare is where we get hurt, right? Because in the end of the day, we process chickens and we it's a food source. But That's something I think our breeding program has really made a big effort to focus on things that say, hey, our birds, not only will they perform, they'll yield, they'll grow, but they will have traits that we can connect to. They live a healthy, happy life, and the welfare of those birds is considered in the selection process. So pretty important stuff. I'll kind of go through this quickly. We've got, actually, I think that number of 300 farms, we're probably tracking right towards 400 right now. Our business is growing, so we're pretty fortunate. Lots and lots of hatcheries, and I think the Aviagen folks on here know we'll in fact, maybe not far from your neck of the woods, we'll be building a new hatchery here pretty soon as our business grows. And then we've got two key R&D facilities, of course, one over in the UK and then one right here in Alabama. And a big portfolio, I already mentioned that. Real quick about sustainability, I don't know these days if you can do a corporate presentation without talking about sustainability, right? That's and in the end, I think there's lots of misinformation. I think people have abused the whole concept of sustainability to sell what they're selling. It's another one of those where I think we can be pretty authentic, feel pretty proud of what we've done, right? So not only have we been able to reduce our own footprint as far as environmental impact, but the product we produce each year, we're one of those rare sort of companies where if you're a customer, every single time you order a new flock of birds, you should be getting a better product. Every single time you order a flock of birds, right? So if we're doing our jobs well, our customers get a brand new product every single time they order, which is cool. And of course, one of the big impacts of that is that product is more efficient, has a less of environmental footprint on a per unit basis. And hopefully we're doing our part to feed the world, but do it in such a way that isn't, hindering future generations and their ability to feed themselves. And then obviously we have to be profitable, right? I think that's, if we're talking to a bunch of young people here, we've got a lot of young people in our company and lots of talented people who have tremendous passion for what they do, tons of talent. And one of the things I say, try and get through to them frequently is, hey, it's what is the business impact of what you're doing? What's the real dollar impact of what you're doing? You want to do this. Why is this important for our business? And it may sound very greedy and sort of capitalistic. On the other hand, it's like no business has the right to proceed if we aren't able to sustain ourselves, right? And so that means profitability. We've got to be able to pay our people. I feel, I know the rest of our leadership team does. We employ upwards of 2,000 people here in North America. There's a strong sense of responsibility. Those are families that we're responsible for, right? These people derive their livelihood from working with us. So being profitable, being sustainable, that's a responsibility. It sort of weighs on you at night when you're saying, hey, well, I'm very fortunate to have a great position here, but man, it comes with a lot of responsibility. So making money is a good thing, right? Not at the expense of other things, but it is important. Just real quick about biosecurity, and maybe this one's topical, right? So we've got a big pandemic going on globally, which probably has had a lot of impact on everyone's mentality, even about disease and how it impacts people and how you're not necessarily, isolated and prevented from being exposed to these things. We're shipping chickens all around the world, and there's a lot of potential that we could be the vector for disease, right? Be that to other animals, potentially to humans. And so our biosecurity programs are really central to what we do. And I think, more so than simply saying, hey, we sell salmonella-free breeding stock, we have a responsibility. If we're shipping day-old chicks all around the world, we need to be making sure we aren't disseminating disease, other risk factors around the world. So our biosecurity program and all the things that go with it is that we do a lot. We spend a lot of money, and we employ a lot of smart people to make sure we're providing safe breeding stock to our customers around the world, and that we have a redundancy plan, right? So, we're not subject right now to AI, but if you pay attention to the news, you'll notice Europe has a lot of avian influenza. There's all kinds of challenges through Europe with avian influenza. Well, a lot of our production base is in Europe, and we don't have the luxury of telling our customers, hey, we can't ship from Europe, tough luck, we'll see you next year, quit feeding people. We've got to find a way to get them product from somewhere else, right? Be that from down under, be that from here in the US, maybe we have to ship product from different areas of the world, but we have to have that plan in place that says, hey, if we're going to take our responsibility seriously, we've got to have plans in the event that our production bases can't ship because of disease, conflict, whatever it might be. Okay. So, hey, I'll stop there. That actually I hope I didn't eat up too much time. It's probably went on a bit longer than I thought it would. Yeah, and then, just a little bit about me. Just 2 minutes on me, just seeing as it's this professional development deal. So by now you probably figured I don't have a Texas accent, a little further south. I'm from South Africa. I came to the University of Arkansas, which, for me at the time, I had no idea, where I was going. Well, I had met a professor there in South Africa who said, hey, you should come over and study here in the US. And, I realized it was pretty expensive, so I thought probably not for me. He explained the assistantship program, which at the time didn't really make a ton of sense to me, and I presumed it was probably something for other people, not people like me. I waited about a year and finally got back in contact with him, and he said, hey, well, why don't you come over? And so of course I had to do my GRE and all that kind of stuff, but came to the US. And if I'm honest, that in South Africa, I had done a master's degree there. In South Africa, if you've done a master's degree, which is you've got to do an honors year, then you've got to do 2 years of master's, and then you get into a PhD. If you follow that process, which I did, typically your PhD is kind of a 2-year deal. So when I got to Arkansas, my professor said, it's probably going to take us 3.5, maybe 4 years. I was ready to go home, if I'm honest. I thought I'm probably done. So I didn't. My dad said, nah, you're not coming home. So anyway, and I've been fortunate. I started my career after that at Aviagen. First job that I had, and kind of got to travel around the world, got to be a tech service guy, saw Asia, saw Latin America, saw lots of Europe and Africa. And, I kind of just evolved into business management positions from there. I always had a passion for understanding the intricacies of the business, right? I was never satisfied being a nutritionist. It felt like it's cool, but it's just a part of the business. I wanted to learn more. And so I always expressed that and kind of had that in the background of what I was wanting to do. And was pretty fortunate, doors opened. I think when you're passionate about what you do and when you express interest and express humility to learn, doors tend to open. And so I'm pretty fortunate and kind of made a full loop 10 years later back to Aviagen. And now I get the pleasure. I mean, it really is a pleasure. There's some of my team on the phone here with us. It's a really cool place to work. We do, I think, important but humble work. We have I like to quote this statistic, which I learned since I came back. We have a small hatchery in Elkmont, Alabama, that hatches GPs. It takes in GGP eggs rather. And about 30% of all the world's chicken genetics flows through that hatchery in Elkmont, Alabama. So think about that for a second. If you would drive past, it's certainly not anything fancy. It's a pretty humble facility. But it's quite a privilege, I think, to be involved in something like that. So I feel very fortunate, and hopefully, and I'll stop there. But if there's any questions, obviously, it'll be great. We can have a chat about that, and then I'll turn it back to you, Candace.
Thank you, Mark, so much. If anybody has any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat, and we can stop and have Mark answer them, or we can answer them at the end with the regular Q&A. We are going to have Michelle Rowlett come on, and she is going to do a professional development presentation for you guys. I know you're getting ready to graduate, or looking at internships and jobs and whatnot, and she is going to give you guys some tips and tricks on how to do that. She's actually been doing lots of interviews lately, so this is right up her alley. And she is actually in Elkmont, and she is our GP manager. So Michelle, are you ready?
Yes, ma'am, I sure am. Thank you guys for joining tonight. I'll kind of echo Dr. DeBeer. I appreciate everybody, coming out and giving their time. And this is something I really enjoy doing, is student outreach, because, kind of as Candace had said, there was not a lot of this when I was in school. So having the opportunity to be able to give back a little bit of what I've picked up over the years, and what I felt were strong points that everybody needs to know is really important. So I'm going to, if anybody can't hear me, don't hesitate to let me know. And once again, I agree with Dr. DeBeer. This is very laid back. So if there's anybody that wants to stop me and ask a question, don't hesitate. This stuff is super important for you guys. So I'm going to attempt to share my screen. And can you guys see that? Very good. All right. So like Candace said, we have been working on interviews for the last couple of weeks, and anytime I sit in interviews, it's important to me to kind of to point out things and take notes of things that I see that folks can do better. So I'm going to touch on just a little bit of professional development, resumes, and interview times. So from a professional development standpoint, there are lists and lists out there of things that require absolutely zero talent. And so I wanted to hit on some of the things that are kind of important for me as a manager, and for me as a coworker. Being on time, that is a common courtesy just as a human, period. But when you're taking somebody's time, whether it be in an interview setting or in a class setting or a work setting, it's really important to be on time. And one of my favorite, I may refer to it later in my presentation, but one of my favorite sayings is to be early is to be on time is to be late, and to be late is to be left. And that was kind of a motto that I developed growing up. I was very active in 4-H things, and so that was instilled in me early on. And so it's not hard to be on time. It's really important. To be coachable is something for me that's very important. You don't have to come into a workplace or come into an interview and know everything right off the bat. You don't have to be able to do everything right off the bat. But you want to realize that you need development and be coachable for that. Because as coworkers and managers and peers, we want to put that time and effort into you and let you get something from that. Having strong work ethic. You're at the point in life where you're getting out into the real world, and it's a little bit different than having necessarily a structured time for classes and whatnot. So you've got to have that work ethic to get up and go to work every day and do your best at your job. The positive attitude is very big. Not only are you impacting yourself, if you get up every day and your attitude is negative, or there's something, your work environment, you come to that with a negative attitude, you're making yourself pretty miserable, which hinders your coachability. It hinders your work ethic, and it also brings down folks around you. So whether you realize that or not, that rubs off very easily. And being passionate, that's a big one for me. I didn't get where I was at because I had a strong knowledge in the poultry industry. Coming into my time at Aviagen, I got here because I'm very passionate about what I do. And almost everything that I do, I exert a lot of passion. And I know I worked with Frank for a lot of years, so he can echo my passion for what we do. So, if you're passionate, that makes your attitude positive, and it helps your work ethic and your coachability. So each one of these drives the other. Communication skills are the next huge thing. In today's time, it's you've got to be very well-rounded in your communication skills. You want to make sure that you can communicate verbally, both on the phone and in person. And it's very different to be able to communicate on the phone when you're not looking at somebody versus in person, and written as well. And I kind of put the email etiquette thing. You want to always address the people that you're emailing properly, Mr., Mrs., or Miss, if you're not sure, or if you know. But that's very important. Start out your emails with a formal formality when you're emailing in positions to look for internships or jobs, and ending those with a thank you or respectfully. That stuff that goes a long way. If emails come across with folks looking for possibilities for jobs or internships and they're super casual, I'm not going to look as hard at those as I may those that take the effort to be a little more formal in that setting. And being able to adapt communication method to the situation. And that's something that it comes with time and experience. I've grown lots in that area. So you're never ready right off the bat until you experience some things, but every situation is different. With the folks that we deal with and the group that I work with is we have contract growers. And so for us to be able to adapt to our contract growers that have been contract growers with us for 30 years versus our contract growers that have just started in the last few years, and there's a big age gap and a big I guess, comfort gap in the way those folks communicate. So, if you come in and you're trying to text, our growers that are nearing 30-year mark, some have adapted to that and some have not. So in our business and what we do, we have to be able to communicate the way that our customers and our growers, in my case, are customers. You have to be able to communicate in a method that is pleasing to them. And being able to listen, that's key in effective communication. If you can't listen to what's going on around you, listen to questions, listen to comments, or listen to, I guess, situations that are being presented, you're not going to give good, solid answers or be able to communicate very effectively. Time management is a big one. So you're used to a time structure. Your courses have times that you attend class. For most of you, more than likely, you've been on hourly type job positions. So your schedules are set for you. When you enter into the business world, or the job world, I went from an hourly type position to salary position. So you've got to be able to manage your time well enough to handle that responsibly. And for some folks that comes easy, and for some it doesn't. We interviewed a young man last week, and he said, that was one of his, not necessarily weaknesses, but one of the areas that he knew he needed to develop. And so for him getting ready to enter the workforce, he found that just simply using a planner and a calendar helped him to manage his time. So I think recognizing where your potential for development is needed really helps you learn how to do that. Set goals. You don't necessarily have to set a goal right now at your point in life to own a company or be the president of a company. And that's great if you do, but be realistic in your goals. And it's okay to say, yes, I want to own this company. But know why and know the steps to get there, I think, is very important. And if you set small goals, for me, that's been the way I thrive the best, is I set small goals that I can achieve and then raise the bar. So I think just knowing what's best for you there, but always set some sort of goal. You want to be a team player. Even if you're in a work environment where you tend to work just, alone, you're working for a company that is a team. So you want to be a team player. I know with the group that I work with, we're a really strong team. We've become a big team, but we all want to better ourselves, but we also want to better our group as well. And that comes with being a valuable team member. Be a team leader, add value to your team, because then you're adding value to yourself when you do that. Am I going too fast for anybody? If I am, tell me to whoa. Okay. So I'm going to kind of skip to resumes. Resumes are biggie, because this is how you sell yourself. So if you are looking for a job position, the first thing that I'm going to get, or that a manager is going to receive, is going to be a resume. So you don't want to put everything on a resume. You don't want it to be super busy. If I have to really, really work hard to read through it and get something out of it, I usually am going to set it to the side and lose track of it. And we mean well when we get resumes, but it's got to be pleasing to the eye. You've got to sell yourself with that. So I recommend that you make the top third of the resume the best part of it, because, if we're hooked right in the beginning, then it's so much easier from there on. Sell yourself well early. Use reverse chronological order. Most of this stuff is pretty basic. I want to know what you've been doing most recently. And not only does that let us know where you're at now, but it also shows, I can look at that and kind of tell how you developed yourself over time with what you've been doing. Preferably for me, one page is best. It goes back to time and just being able to sell yourself early on. And I know as you gain skills that kind of gets lengthy, but I think it's important to keep resumes up to date. And as you gain skills, there may be some that need to drop off because they're not a valuable selling tool for a certain position that you may be interested in. Simple format and font. Like I said, if it's easy on the eyes, then we'll sit down and study it a whole lot better. I recommend kind of a 5-point max in a given section as far as bullets, just because it gets lengthy if you just add and add and add things. And resumes are probably my least favorite thing to do. And I've been with the company for almost 17 years, and so I haven't done a ton of those, but they're my least favorite thing. So I have to work really hard on those.
Hey, Michelle, not to interrupt you, but I looked at resumes all day from our students, so it's fresh on my brain.
Yes.
So the simple format, I think a lot of our students are, you know, Gen Z, and they want it to stand out, and they want it to be, have a fun, you know, picture at the, not a picture, but graphics and
Right.
things. And how do you recommend that they make it stand out in different ways than design?
I think for me, you make it stand out with your accomplishments, and kind of going into being able to sell yourself with goals that you've set or goals that you've reached, or things that you've been able to in your work history or volunteer history. How have you added value to that project or that job, or that team that you were working on? For me, that's, and I may be more old school in that, you know, for me, if you're selling yourself with what you've done and how you've accomplished that, and any of my peers can add in at any time, you know, that they may think different. But, you know, for me, if you sell yourself with what you've done, and how you've matured yourself and how you've added value to the positions that you've held, whether they be volunteer or whether they be, you know, paying jobs, both are equally important to show development. And I know, you know, a lot of, I guess, folks get sidetracked or worried when they don't necessarily have a lot of job history. I don't always look for job history. I want to look to see what activities have you been involved in, or there are folks that have not had a lot of extracurricular activities to be involved in, simply because the dynamic has been, I've got to work to put myself through college, so I've not had as much time for extracurricular activities. So as far as getting hung up on having more of one thing than the other, or even a balance, to me is don't fret over that kind of thing, because if you're showing that you are working or that you're volunteering, you're gaining something, and you're gaining skills that will better you, and help add value to the positions that you're looking to hold.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
We had one question from Travis Williams, and he asked if you could elaborate more on the show, don't tell soft skills statement.
Okay. I left my notes in my other office, but I think I kind of said it, I guess not specifically, but once again, it goes into the selling of what you've done. You know, have you, I wish I could think of a better example off the top of my head. I don't necessarily say that I've got skill, you know, I'm experienced in Word or Excel. Put it into a format of how you use that skill to better a team or do better at a job, I guess is the best way to put that. Did that help?
I think our students often, you know, use that skills section that a lot of people say, put it on a resume. And that's kind of what I say. Don't even worry about a skills section. If you can't explain in the bullets how you're a leader and how you have communication skills, then it's kind of just, it's a waste. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yes, you said that so much better than I did. Thank you. But yes, and you know, and you can word it as, not, like I said, I've got Microsoft, I'm fluent in Microsoft Excel. Go into how you created a spreadsheet for a position or for a job, or how you utilized you know, the chart making process and that sort of thing, that add that value there. And then you don't necessarily, like Leslie said, have to have that just list of skills, because that gets kind of awkward. How do you start that off? I am fluent in Microsoft Word. I'm fluent in Microsoft Excel. Okay, and there's only so many ways you can say it. So that's what I mean, is show it in the description of your experiences. And that kind of goes along, you know, my next point, mix up word use. Don't start every bullet with responsible for. And we see quite a bit of that because it's just awkward. How do you go about it? Well, describe the position, and in the position, add in what you accomplished or what your responsibilities were, without having to start with responsible for every time. And then I can't stress enough to proofread, and read it again. And that's with any documents that you send or that you, emails, documents, resumes, proofread is very important.
Do you recommend, Michelle, students these days doing a cover letter or a cover sheet? And that was always the thing when I was in school, like, oh, you need a cover letter. And like, what do I put on a cover letter? Like, my name is Candace Kirk and I want to work here.
Right.
A, B, and C. I mean, do people read that? Is that something that students, we should still use?
For me, and like I said, everybody else chime in if you'd like. For me, a cover letter doesn't make or break a resume to me, because you're going to tell what you're after. I guess I'm good with an objective statement on a resume, and that may be an old school thing too. But if you can give me a brief objective of what you're looking for on that one-page resume, that keeps it in that simple format. It keeps it to that one page, and I think if you can sell yourself in that resume, then add all the other stuff in when you get to the interview process.
I think also, sorry to interrupt you guys, but maybe like if you know the kind of job you're applying for, like if your resume is likely to be sitting in a pile of 100 on someone's desk, and that's the kind of role you're applying for, obviously that person isn't going to spend 40 minutes reading every resume, right? If you're applying for a position, you get to a point in your career, or you have a skill set which is fairly unique, and there's maybe 3 other people, then I think you can, you realize, hey, they're going to take this, they're going to spend a little more time, so, knowing the position, knowing the people you're likely to be engaging with will probably help you decide, what level of detail, does a cover letter make sense, those kind of things, right?
Thank you. I think that's a perfect point that I guess I hadn't really thought about, but that is very good. I appreciate that. Let's see, I think that's what I've got on resumes. So your resume, it's landed you that coveted interview. So congratulations on that. Practice, practice, and practice again. I was fortunate enough that I grew up, like I said, doing 4-H activities where I was very active in public speaking. I was very active in interview type processes. So that's something that I've always been comfortable with. There are lots of folks that get nervous, and the more practice you get, the less nervous you'll be. Practice with friends, practice with mentors, and take advice when you get that. And I had tried to look through some things that Leslie had sent, and I appreciate you sending that ahead of time as far as what folks were looking for. So get ready ahead of time. Print out some extra resumes. Check your clothes ahead of time, because you don't want to get to interview day and, oh my goodness, my clothes are not fitting. Or, oh my goodness, there's a huge stain on my shirt. So you're already at interview time, and, oh, I've got to go, wasn't prepared. Now I'm flustered because I've got to rework my wardrobe. And that may seem super silly, but that's very real, that, that gets you sidetracked and you're not focused on what you're doing. And I think I had seen in the poll questions about professional dress or professional attire. That was one of the things that students wanted me to touch on. And I think knowing the job that you're applying for also makes a difference in how you dress for an interview. I'm always in favor of, got that power suit, break it out for the positions that we're interviewing for. But there are instances where polo and khakis, if you're dressed your best, then that's the important part. Like I said, I think you want to be put together well and presented well. So I think, doing that ahead of time will make a big difference. And then kind of back to the professional development side of things, if you're dressed for success for your interview time, once you land that job, then you adapt your attire to the position that you're in. So you'll gain that information and be able to adapt then. For an interview, you want to research the company because it's very likely that the folks that are interviewing you are going to ask some questions. And it may just be a simple blanket, tell me what you know about the company. And that may lead into extra questions. So, if you've researched the company and you tell somebody in an interview that you did, be prepared to answer a few questions that would be common knowledge for most research. and, research the company in knowing kind of the area you're wanting to work in. So if you're coming for an interview as a poultry specialist position, do your best to research that and know kind of the basis of what you're looking to do, because it's hard to come in for an interview and not really know a direction that you're headed. To be on time. So like I said, I covered that earlier. So it's very important. And even from a virtual standpoint, get in there early, because you never know when your virtual platform is not going to work. And that's something that I was very pleased with my team this past week when we did a gazillion internship interviews, because we are not virtual folks in my group. And so we pulled off a lot of Zoom interviews, and we actually liked it. So I was really proud of that. And it was just one of those being early and being prepared situations that made it flow smoothly. So when you do your research, use that research and develop a connection with your interviewer. If you can develop a connection with your interviewer, then it's going to be a more comfortable environment for you. So you're not going to come off as nervous. You want to be sure you answer your questions honestly and answer your questions thoroughly, giving background to your answers that highlight your skills. So if we ask about one of your strong points, lay out your strong point, but give us a follow-up that gives an example of why that is a strong point for you. And so you want to make the sale with how you can use your skills to benefit the company. I'm looking to hire you for what you can give the company, what you can do for the company. So think about the skills in your research, prepare yourself to be able to explain how you can benefit the company with your skills. You want to be polished in communicating your skills, but don't sound fake. You'll get interviews where you're told the blanket statement of, okay, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And, your reply is, I see myself as management, and that's all you get. And then we follow up with that. I always follow up with that question with, why management? What makes you want to be in management? Well, if you truly want to be in management, know why. If you don't necessarily just say it because you think it sounds good. Because why do you want to be in management? Do you want to be in management because of a title? Do you want to be in management because of money? Do you want to be in management to be able to give back? Just follow up with that. And there's really no wrong answer to that. It's just be able to follow up why. Don't just say things because that's what it sounds good in an interview and what you think you need to say. Don't hesitate to ask questions. Even through research, you're not going to know everything about exactly the position or the expectations that you're interviewing for. Ask those questions. Nobody ever faults folks for asking questions. And take notes. That's very important because you're in an environment where you're uncomfortable, you're a little bit nervous, so it's hard to remember everything that you went over, everything that you said. So it's really important to take notes and follow up. Follow up with an email saying, thank you, a simple thank you card. Thank you for taking your time to interview me. And that's simple. Doesn't take much. Like I said, a thank you card or an email, very simple, and just lets us know that you appreciate our time to spend with you. I think that's all I've got, and I feel like I just flew through it, but if you have questions, lay those on me.
There's so much to say about professional development. So yes. You better be ready. I'm going to be calling on you to be a guest speaker next semester in my class. So
I will polish my skills some then.
Then you can have 50 more minutes with them to tell them all the good stuff. Thank you very much.
We actually had a question. When it comes to bios and personal info on professional social media sites such as LinkedIn, would the same tips and rules you list for resumes be applicable to how we show ourselves to the internet world?
So I'm glad you brought that up because I did mean to add that in, and like I said, I totally forgot. As far as how you present yourself in the internet world, yes, as far, to me, in the professional development side of the internet world, you want to follow the same format, the same professionalism. And something else that I didn't mention that I should have mentioned is your social media accounts. Really think about what's getting posted on your social media accounts, because when I get a stack of resumes, or when my team gets a stack of resumes, we'll divide those up if we've got several, or we'll Facebook stalk you just to see what kind of, what are you like outside of work, or, it tells a lot about a person. So when you're at that stage in life, you don't think a whole lot about it. And then, like I said, it's not ever a make or break deal, but we do look at your Facebook profiles. So.
And it is important to remember, my mom told me this, I'm only 32, but my mom told me this growing up, and it is forever. You think it will go away, you can delete it. Someone out there can find it, and they can show it and share it again and again and again. So if you question it, if you think, I don't know, maybe don't.
Yes, definitely. And, even after you've landed a job, if you've got things you need to vent, or things going on, vent those in the proper channels through your employer. Don't lay it all out there for everybody in the media world to see. So like I said, that's kind of a big one. We usually do check everybody out.
And we had one more. We're going real fast. Sometimes it can be challenging to determine a mailing address for an interviewer. So when sending a follow-up card or a thank you card, is it better proper etiquette to mail a card, or is a simple email, thank you so much for taking the time to see me, I look forward to hearing you and hopefully working with you in the future? Is there a preference? Is one more?
I don't have a preference in my book. I think if, you're taking the time to reach out and you're not sure of a mailing address, then I'm good with just a follow-up thank you email.
I've literally never received a mailed thank you or like a note. I've received emails. So maybe it's fairly common. I have never, and I think I've interviewed a lot of people, have never received a note in the mail. I would say this: if you can get it there quick enough, right, that would make an impact, I think. One thing I wouldn't, sometimes people send a thank you note and then they spend, another 4 paragraphs of email trying to, I would skip that, right? Hey, thank you. I'm really excited about the opportunity. It's cool, whatever, something brief, confident, move on. I wouldn't, sometimes you feel like, oof, like, are they wanting pity to be the reason I hired them kind of thing? And I wouldn't, I don't know. I don't want to be judgmental, but I wouldn't, probably wouldn't overdo it. But like I said, I've never seen a card. That'd probably have an impact on me if you had I would probably recognize like, wow, that's different, so.
Well, I agree with Mark. I've probably received 3, and all 3 of those people impressed me because they took the time. First off, I'm old school. And, the fact that they would take time to write something instead of text, it's almost like a text. That's not even important to me anymore. Somebody that's willing to pick up a phone and call me or send a note and thanking me for my time, to me, that's impressive. The email, everybody does it. The text, everybody does it. It's special. So I would suggest doing that after an interview.
I don't know. I think Michelle mentioned it, Google your employer, but if you can find a connection with whom you're interviewing, again, an honest connection, don't just, like she said, don't fake it, but an honest connection with someone you're interviewing, I think that makes an impact. I think that it shows that you did do some research, but it also shows that you guys can connect on something other than just a work interview or things of that nature. So I think that says something about you as an interviewee. Interviewee.
Candace, is that kind of like your husband catching my son all through high school?
Yeah. I don't know if there's a proper answer to that.
That's kind of a connection. There you go.
It is. This is.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Now, I saw one question that I wanted to kind of cover from Amber. She was asking about if somebody's resume doesn't show a history of working with poultry or even agriculture in general. Does that make me lose interest? Not one bit. I don't have a background in poultry, and then I'll kind of go through my introduction shortly, but I don't have a background in poultry. I do have a background in agriculture, but we also, in my team and the team that I work with, we have got folks from a computer background. We've got folks, we just hired a young man that's got his master's in business. So we have a wide array of backgrounds that we employ in the groups that I directly work with. And for me, we can teach you. If you're coachable, we can teach you what we need you to know. If your resume is showing that that you're active in or have good work ethic, or you've gained valuable skills through volunteer work or extracurricular activities, that's the kind of stuff that, you know, whether it be with poultry or whether it be not, that's the important stuff.
Right. And this is Marla. So I am the global director of global marketing, and I'd like to echo what Michelle said as well. I don't have a background in poultry, but in agriculture. But Aviagen as a global company also has positions in a vast array of departments. So, and I know that we're talking to ag and poultry science students here, but agriculture communications. So there's lots of avenues for marketing, communications, accounting, human resources, IT, even with people with computer backgrounds. So there's a lot of opportunity that doesn't have to be on poultry science majors. So.
What other kind of?
I'm old school too, Frank, by the way. I like the thank you notes. I like the hard copy, but, and Mark's right, the emails coming in right after that are brief are impressive as well. So.
Hey Candace, would we be able to, it sounds like we're kind of transitioning into Q&A. Would those who maybe haven't introduced themselves go ahead and do that real quick? That way we know who all is here that maybe hasn't had a chance to jump in yet.
Frank, you want to go ahead? Because you're in my line.
Okay.
People heads.
Sure. I'm Frank Doherty. I've been in the poultry industry for, let's see, about 39 years now. So if you'd like to all unmute and say there's no way you don't look that old, that's fine. Go ahead. But 28 years of that, the first 11 years I was with ConAgra, so I was with an integrator. And the last 28 years have been with primary breeders, either Hubbard or Aviagen. And you know, I fell in love with the breeder side of it, even when I was with ConAgra. And this was a natural transition for me when I had the opportunity to go to work for a primary breeder. So I've really enjoyed this. Like I said, I've been in it a long time. I've been in multiple positions. Most recently, I am Vice President of Sales and Technical Service for about the last 10 years now. And 10 years prior to that, I was Vice President of GGP and GP live operations over all our hatcheries, GGPs, GPs. So well-versed in the industry, I believe, particularly in the primary breeding industry. And I would like to echo Michelle's, some of Michelle's comments. You know, once you get past the resume, once you get past the interviews, once you get into a position, to me, what's always impressed me, and right or wrong, I judge people on how hard they're willing to work physically, whether they're okay with getting dirty. This industry is a little different than most. You're not going to go in and you're not going to be a computer programmer, more than likely, if you're talking about being in the poultry science end. So the fact that you're willing to go in and catch chickens, that's pretty impressive. Michelle's worked with me. She probably knows a lot about me, but when we had to depup a flock, you know, I'm out there working, I'm killing chickens with them, I'm throwing in the back of a truck, whatever it takes. I even had the state of Tennessee ask my Roy Brazil, God rest his soul. They asked him if we need somebody like that to work for us. And he looked over and said, well, that's our Vice President of Live Operations. So never be afraid to get dirty, work hard. People will realize it, people will recognize it, and you'll go a long way. That's me.
Does anyone have questions for Frank at all, kind of what he has seen and done in the industry and how each position that he's held has led him to his next one?
Maybe we can get Christina and Abby to introduce briefly, just so then we can start the Q&A. That'd be great. I know we have a lot of pre-vet students, Christina, who are biting at the bit to get to know you too.
Oh, sorry. Do you want to go first, Abby? You go ahead. You're the interesting one.
All right, cheers, Christina. Yeah, my name is Abby Matthews, so I will hold this up to the camera. I'm also a fellow Aggie. I graduated a long time ago, so I guess you can officially call me an old Ag. Frank sent me an email last week saying, I thought we got rid of all the Aggies, but no, we're still hanging around. They just move us to different places now. Yes, I am dialing in from New Zealand. So I'm the New Zealand operations manager for Aviagen. So again, 18 years. I started in the US right out of A&M. Started at our hatcheries and quality control. And then Frank actually is the one who said, how would you like to move into hatchery management? Probably about 15 years ago. So that led me on to to one of my next steps. And after that, took a big jump overseas and moved to Australia and went into more national roles under looking at quality, welfare, health monitoring, and biosecurity. And for the last roughly 3.5 years, I've been in New Zealand looking after our operations here. So it was a great move for me. This is a national role. Under our operation here, we have 13 farms, 1 hatchery, an import station. And I also get the opportunity to work with our global teams on everything from marketing, welfare, deal with different poultry science associations, the government. So it's a fantastic place to be. So yeah, that's just really briefly about me. And oh yeah, and during that time too, I went back and while working for Aviagen, went back and did my master's in business at Wake Forest as well. So it's been a great 18 years for me. So yeah, and you guys will hear a lot of my advice next month if you're in one of Leslie's classes or 381 class, because I'll be dialing in and doing a call for you then as well.
All right. Thanks, Abby. I'm Christina Lindsay, so I'm a veterinarian. I'm actually a grandparent flock veterinarian. I lead a team of 3 other veterinarians who are primarily in charge of the grandparent flocks for Aviagen in the Alabama, Tennessee area. So I actually graduated, it took me 10 years to become a poultry veterinarian, if that gives you an idea. So 4 years of undergrad, 4 years of vet school, and actually did a poultry residency as well. It took 2 years. So I just graduated, it'll be 6 years ago this summer. So I haven't been a vet for very long, practicing poultry medicine. So if that gives you an idea of how long it takes to actually do this. Sometimes I think about how terrible vet school was. And I look at like Michelle's team, the production team, and I'm like, man, that's a really good job. So if you really want to like work with animals and hands-on with chickens every single day, production is the way to go. That said, I really do love my job, so it's hard for me to say like don't go to vet school either. So anyway, so I'm a little bit like Michelle, where I don't have a whole lot of poultry background. I didn't grow up with chickens or anything like that. Actually, I spent some of my childhood in Arlington, Texas, so I've got a little bit of a Texas connection. Moved to Georgia when I was in 2nd grade. Suburbs, grew up in the suburbs. I got to college knowing that I wanted to do veterinary medicine. I kind of went pre-vet, and they randomly, Texas A&M, I think it's a little bit similar to University of Georgia in that we have an animal science department and a poultry science department. So as a pre-vet student, they randomly put me into poultry science, and I was kind of questioning it at the time. People are always talking about these underwater basket weaving classes that you can take in college. And I was like, is this like underwater basket weaving? But I was like, all right, well, it's college. You're supposed to try new things. So I got into that intro to poultry science class. It was a lot of fun. I thought it was really cool. We had all these interesting like nutrition experiments that we did in that class. We learned all about why we don't give hormones and why they don't work and stuff like that. And it was really enlightening. So in that class, I also got to learn about more of the other classes that you can take at poultry science, which I'm sure you guys are all enjoying, or all virtually sometimes, I guess. So there's like endocrinology classes. We had like a surgery class that was a lot of fun. And that time I kind of was like, all right, I can do this poultry science thing. But when you start getting into the higher level classes, I thought it was really interesting to be able to apply all the like hard science, the chemistry, microbiology, cell bio, that be able to apply that to a real live animal and see what kind of effects it has on the live animal in those classes. So, by junior year, I was kind of convinced, okay, I'm not just going to be a veterinarian, I'm going to be a poultry veterinarian. I got to vet school. I think maybe putting that on my application might have helped me get into vet school, because there aren't a lot of people interested in poultry. I remember overhearing some other students in the lobby of the vet school one day saying like, poultry, who would want to do that? And I was like, kind of offended, because poultry is really great. It's a really great field to be in. So once you graduate from vet school, you're licensed, or you're, able to practice on any animal that you want to. For me, it would be malpractice if I were to practice on dogs and cats or horses or anything like that. I've kind of forgotten everything about that in the past 6 years. But, vet school, 4 years of dogs, cats, and cattle, maybe a little bit of horses, maybe some alpacas or something random like that. But I was kind of missing poultry a lot at that point. I took like one poultry class because that was all that even the University of Georgia offered. But University of Georgia does have a really good Master's in Avian Medicine program. That's one of the programs that you can do after you get your Doctor of Veterinary Medicine. But I said, okay, I've spent 8 years at Georgia. Let's try something else, get more diversity in my education. So I ended up at North Carolina State University, which also has a very one of the older programs, I guess, that are available. There's a few other schools that are popping up with the newer programs. UC Davis has one of those older programs as well. But I had some really good experiences there. So North Carolina is more of a turkey and broiler breeder kind of state. They've got a lot of broilers there too, but I got to see a lot more broiler breeders and turkeys there than I would have in Georgia. So that was a little bit more, I guess it helped diversify my training a little bit. So by the time I got to meet some people from Aviagen, I felt a little bit more prepared for the broiler breeder role. So we don't see a lot of broilers specifically in our day-to-day life. But yeah, that's about me. I think that answered one of the little private questions that I got. But yeah, I'll hand it over to who hasn't gone yet. Marla, you gave a little bit of an introduction. Do you want to go next?
Actually, I wasn't on the panel. I was just, I was clipping this class. I was monitoring, but thank you. I'm Marla Robinson. I'm based out of Huntsville as well, and I'm the Director of Global Marketing. And so we're just excited to be here and happy to answer any questions that you may have. And if there's something I can help with as we get questions related to internships or where you go find that information, I can chime in and answer those. So.
Marla, why don't you do that right now? Because I guarantee you everybody has an interest in that, about what internships, and we've got a couple of specific questions that are like, when is the time to start doing applications and interviews? And then what type of positions do you have for recent college grads?
Sure. And the ones that I can answer, I will, and then maybe Michelle can pick up where I leave off. So we do have an internship program. It's a great program. It's across the company. The ways that you can apply for that on the website, aviagen.com, under the careers link, there is an internship link. You click there, send your resume in. We also encourage you to send your resume to the local facilities. If you're in a community where we have a hatchery or a facility, you can send your resume there or go by in person to actually fill out an application or to inquire about it as well. For open positions, we post those on our website as well. For career openings, we also post to LinkedIn. And occasionally, if you follow us on Facebook, yes, we have a Facebook page, we actually post positions usually for a specific facility, and we target it geographically. So, but you may be able to see the postings there as well. One of the questions I saw earlier was, do we look solely for poultry science majors or minors? And we do look for those, obviously, but that, as Michelle said, that's not an absolute necessity. We look for the best people. One of our taglines is to breed the best, we need the best. So that may mean that you're a poultry science major or minor, but it may not. So if you have a passion about poultry, you need to look at us. Oh, and also you can, Indeed, we do post positions to Indeed as well.
And Marla, did you mention that we have been posting positions on Facebook as well?
We do post them on Facebook. Typically, like I mentioned, they're geo-targeted. So, for example, the feed mill in our Athens area, we would post a position for a feed mill technician within, say, a 75-mile radius. So, if you like agriculture and poultry, and you're within that radius of a facility, you'd likely see that posting. So, encourage you to go out there and follow us on Facebook.
Michelle, do you want to talk a little bit about what type of positions are entry level, and when do you suggest application interview timeline?
Yes. So for the team that I work with, that I can speak for, our entry level position here is a poultry specialist position. And as far as internship timeline, late December, January timeline. We just wrapped up the interviews we did last week as far as for internships. Got most of those through the IPPE format. So that's a big time to interview. And I think as far as all the poultry companies, I know last year we were actually, the production team that I work with, we were a little bit behind on our interviewing, and we were a little bit late as far as internship offers go. So I think the late December and January time is, I think, when most everybody is interviewing and making internship offers. As far as open positions, to kind of echo what Marla said, you can go on the website and you'll see a general area. And I'll have folks ask, they'll call and ask, do you have a specific position open? And generally, if there's that specific position open, it will be listed under that area as a specific. Sometimes if you apply and there's nothing specific, there's just nothing open at that point. For us, we're in the process of opening a couple of poultry specialist positions now that we're looking for folks to fill. So there's some opportunity there. We don't have those on the website yet, but that's on the to-do list very quickly. And then if you don't care, Leslie, I'll just give a quick brief, since I didn't use my floor very well, on how I got to where I am within the company, because to me it says a lot about our company that I was able to come in out of college with zero poultry background. I knew who Aviagen was because I live in the heart of our production base. At the time it wasn't, but I had spent some time gathering eggs for the neighbor at his production farm. So I graduated college and I came in and I started servicing pullets as a poultry specialist. So got my introduction to Aviagen in our pullet department. I worked in the pullet department from 2004 to, I think, roughly December of 2011. And then I made the transition to servicing in our breeder department. And so I worked there until 2016. So I'm really fortunate that I got the opportunity to be well-rounded and on both sides of our grandparent production team, as far as in knowing our pullets and knowing our breeder programs. And in 2016, I got the opportunity to take a new position that had just been created, that was an animal welfare and biosecurity compliance position, and get that started off, from the start. And so that was really fun for me because I was able to utilize my relationship with the production team and my knowledge with the production team to really get that position started off very well, and actually got to do something kind of fun. And I created an interactive training module with the help of our team there. And so that was really kind of cool to get that opportunity. And then in 2019, I came back to production as the production manager for our Elkmont complex. And so I can't state enough how proud I am to be where I am within the company. Of the roughly 300 farms that Dr. DeBeer mentioned in his presentation, 140 to 150 of those fall under the scope here out of our Elkmont team. So we've got a tremendous team that has grown over the years, and the company has always been good to me. So just want to echo, wherever we are in the company, it's a really good company to work for, and I'm very proud that Mr. Roy took a chance on me way back then so that I could get to where I am today. That's the long and short of mine.
And that actually kind of segues into one of the questions that we had submitted earlier. What should I be doing now as a student to position myself for a career with your company? And then what is a day in the life like for your job? And that can be whomever from Aviagen wants to answer, feel free.
I think everyone, well, I don't know if, sorry if I'm interrupting, but look, I mean, everyone can chip in, you know, saying, what can I do to prepare myself? I mean, you know, I think it's the great thing about the United States, right? You should be spending as much time learning about industry, companies, to find out that it's going to be something you want to do, right? I mean, you know, if I'm honest, there's probably a lot of great jobs in Aviagen that I don't want to do. I mean, I don't want to do that. And so, you know, learning as much about yourself and what interests you is probably as important as anything. And I think, you know, as it is daunting, right? Like, I mean, probably a lot of you have more background in poultry than some of us had, but it's daunting entering into an industry when you feel like, oh, everyone knows more than me and everyone kind of been doing this a while. And, you know, don't worry about that. You know, having good questions, being, you know, having a lot of initiative, willing to ask, I think those things are pretty valuable. So, you know, we don't expect, and any company who does, frankly, I don't know that it's one you want to work for. We don't expect people to arrive at Aviagen with every skill they already need, with every, you know, kind of soft skill they already need. You know, like, we get it. You know, we were all, you know, coming out of school at one stage in our lives as well. And we were all kind of inexperienced, uncertain people at one time in our lives. So I think, you know, be humble, be passionate about, you know, wanting to help. You know, have initiative, ask questions, be willing to work, like Frank said, and you'll be a great employee. You'll be a winner. Like that. It's the same as you approach anything in life, right? I don't think approaching a new job or a new opportunity in a career is different than any other opportunity in life. Where be humble, be honest, be authentic, and what you don't know will help you learn. And then chances are, if you're any good over time, you'll help us learn a bunch of new stuff, because young people come with different views, different ideas, different perspectives, and we benefit from that. So, yeah, I think, you know, my advice is just, you know, learn a lot about yourself and be comfortable recognizing you don't have to know everything on day one, right?
I think to add to that, I think participating in things like this is a great way to prepare for not just working with Aviagen, but working for any company, or even if you plan on furthering your education, being able to participate and ask those questions and interact with different people, it's going to take you a long way.
Hey, Abby, maybe this one will be good for you. So right now in this virtual world, how do you think our students can make their best use of the time we're living in? How can they reach out? What should they be doing right now when we're not as in person as we used to be?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. I might have to pass that one on to some of our, you know, touch wood, we're a really lucky country. We don't have any community transmission of COVID right now. So we can go out. We don't have to wear masks. We can go to restaurants. But at the onset of this, it's really about being open. Well, I'll say at the onset of something like COVID, when we were completely locked down and we couldn't really leave our homes unless it was for the absolute essentials. The biggest part is of making the best use of your time is balance. It's balancing. So for someone like me, balancing not only work, but hobbies, my health, and my family. It's balancing all those things, because once those get off kilter just a little bit, your life gets thrown for a spin. So if you just take care of work, then your family's going to suffer. Or if you just take care of, you know what, I'm in lockdown, or I don't have a lot of contact, I'm just going to have fun and do my hobbies. Well, then everything else suffers. So balancing your life is such a key part, and especially for everyone. I think everyone on the call except for me is in the U.S. I think that's such an important part of what's going on right now in the world. Unfortunately for us, or fortunately for us, we don't have those restrictions now. So we do have a lot more face-to-face and person-to-person contact than we did 7 or 8 months ago. But, you know, Mark, I'm sure Mark and Marla probably have a lot with Zoom calls and things like that, especially now, and especially with teams that are so big. I might pass that one on to Mark and Marla for their comment as well.
Yeah, hey, I mean, it's like we're doing this call on Zoom at 6:30 or 7:30 now. You know, like you just adjust, right? I think people have adjusted, and I don't know that we're any better at it than students who've got to figure out a way to get their degrees remotely. You guys are probably as good or better at this than we are. You know, Frank might have some comments. You know, so it's some of the work that his team does is in a chicken house, helping people understand, you know, how to manage our particular products and things. And I think those guys have had a challenge. Like, I got to say, I don't think this is a, you know, there's companies who won't have everyone back in the office and that, yeah, life will change. But for me, this is not a sustainable way to do business, right? We can keep our business running, but I don't think we can develop and grow and really maximize everything we could be doing for the world or could be doing for each other. So, I look forward to the day we don't have to do this stuff, to be honest. I love Zoom. It's great. But I've probably had enough of it the last year. But again, I don't think you guys are no different than us, right? I mean, you're sitting there trying to figure out how to do classes and stuff. Frank, maybe you can talk a little bit about your team. I think your folks have done some cool stuff with our school and stuff. And Marla, you guys can talk about that, right?
You know, we've done a lot online. Our team had to find a way to continue to help our customers attain the genetic potential of our product. And at first it was rough. We were picking up phones, trying to make calls. Then we developed WebExes. Then we had large meetings. We'd give presentations, field questions, those kind of things. I think Marla and her team, Candace and the rest of them, have done a fantastic job with our Aviagen school. It's still ongoing, and we have locked on to what Marla was doing, and now we have meetings available, training classes for our customer base. And I'll let Marla speak to what all that they've been doing, but our team got involved early, and we've been able to guide our customers on where to go, and we participated in those. We've been presenters. So we've tried to help our customer base as much as possible. There's nothing like the hands-on, but when you can't, you find a different way. I pray for you guys that you don't have to go through this, and when you graduate, you know, you're hands-on, you're face-to-face, and that's always the best way. But most of you are probably much more IT capable than me, and I'm always been hands-on. We're fortunate that we have a team that's come in that's younger, that understands more about the way to handle that. And Marla is, I mean, you know, one of the youngsters, and she's been able to get us going in the right direction. So Marla, I'll kind of pass it over to you, some of the things you've done for the school.
Sure, thank you. So one of the things that's important for your career, I think that we kind of touched on, is networking. And so one of the things that Aviagen is known for was our Aviagen Production Management School. It's been going on, it's the longest industry running school of its kind. It's a month long, and it's open to all of our global customers. We host about 35 or so students every year for the month of June. Abby's participated in the school, so he's very familiar as well. And so they go through a series of classroom topics on production, various topics. We host them for the weekend. We do a lot of fun stuff to kind of build networking and community for customers worldwide. Well, when the pandemic hit, we couldn't do that. You know, travel restrictions, border closings, and so forth. So last year we had to cancel the physical school, unfortunately. But we did go ahead and host a virtual global school that was a week long. And that went very well. We had about 600 students worldwide that participated in the school. But we wanted to take that a step further. So working with Frank's team, we developed with his technical team's help, they put together a program of topics that we would do one class every Thursday for the entire year of 2021. So we are doing like a virtual, we'll record it, but then it's a live Q&A for our customers. And so far we kicked that off in January. And so far we've had about 600 people attend the live stream of that as well. So it's just another innovative way to help our customers maximize the performance of their birds, to stay in front of them, And it's a great networking opportunity, even if it is virtual. So we hope with 2022 that the pandemic kind of goes away and that we'll be able to return to these in-person events because they are invaluable. They're invaluable for us, for our customers, and for you for networking. That's it for me. Abby, if anybody wanted to add anything about that, so.
Hey, that's great. You know, I keep telling our students that, I mean, in a normal time, we wouldn't be connecting with people like Abby in New Zealand, you know, and so there are some benefits to this change that we are experiencing, and, you know, finding the silver lining is always a good thing. So let's see, we've got a question for Dr. Lindsay. What does an average day or week look like as a poultry veterinarian?
So I've probably got one of the best jobs of a poultry veterinarian because I don't have to travel very much. Like I'm home every night. I don't have to like sell something. I just have to, like, my main job is to make sure that our flocks are healthy, that our biosecurity is good, keeping out disease, that our flocks have great animal welfare. And I'm thinking, oh, health, welfare, biosecurity. Yeah, that's my main responsibility. So I'm responsible for checking out hen flocks and pullet flocks on the grandparent side. I'm also responsible for looking at our parent stock hatcheries, so the hatcheries that supply directly to our customers. I take a look at those. You know, every month I try to have a look at a couple different hatcheries. So I get to see chickens every day, but I'm also involved in a little bit of like the research project. So how do we make sure that our flocks are performing at their best? And I think that's probably my favorite part of the job, is working with the production team on trials to make sure that we're doing the best we can with what we've got. So it's a little bit of everything. I also work a little bit with the laboratory on salmonella is our biggest concern. It's I guess that's our biggest risk, maybe to our reputation, to our birds, to our flocks. So that's a fun one too. So what kind of interventions can we take to prevent and eliminate salmonella from our flocks, and make sure that our customers don't end up with any salmonella from their products. So there's a little bit of microbiology involved in that, working with a laboratory and our microbiologists there too. Yeah, a lot of like disease control, a lot of pathology. I like to do, necropsy is one of the favorite parts of my job that I like to do. And just getting more details on necropsy like that too. It's been fun to learn from birds that are really relatively healthy. We don't see a lot of disease in our birds because we have such great biosecurity, but it's really interesting to see if our coccidiosis vaccination goes wrong or something, to see the effects of that long term throughout the flock, and see how that eventually can cause an effect on hen problems too. So yeah, does that answer your question? There's a lot of really cool poultry veterinarian jobs out there. I think I've got the best one, but if you want, I think Leslie's got our contact information. I'll be happy to direct you to anybody who does, you know, allied industry research, or, you know, pharmaceutical industry, diagnostic lab, that kind of thing. I've got a lot of friends, and it's a very close-knit group as a poultry vet. So I can definitely direct you guys to somebody who might be closer to your interest.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So you're probably hearing my clock in the background here, and that's my my reminder to be respectful of everybody's time. But yes, I do have everybody's contact information, as well as, you know, their emails and things of that nature, which I will send out to all of our students after we close here tonight. So I definitely encourage you to utilize the networking door opening that has happened tonight, right? You've met multiple people in different areas, and hopefully everyone found somebody that they can relate to, or maybe have a follow-up conversation with. So again, tonight was just an opening door. We really hope that students, you'll be reaching out individually to have a little more direct conversation with questions that you may have as well. But I know that they wanted to show a quick video as kind of our wrap up. So I will turn it over to Candace and let her do that. And then we'll kind of give our thanks one more time and let everybody get to it. So Candace, go for it.
This is just a little recruitment video that we would love to share with you guys.
Candace, you probably can turn it up a little louder.
Yep.
Well, Marla told me that there was no sound, so I'm sorry if you did not hear the music.
We
The
can
message
kind of
is
hear it.
just the same.
Well, I was just typing, but we can, if you'll email me the video or the link
Yes.
to it, I'd be more than happy to put that in the follow-up email that I send with the contact info, so everybody can take the time to watch it and hear all the good catchy music too.
Tell you what, it's actually on YouTube. We'll send you the link to the YouTube.
Perfect. That'll be great. We also, I didn't mention this, but our interim department head, Dr. Audrey McElroy, is with us tonight too. Do you have any kind of final thoughts for us, Dr. Mac?
Hey, good evening, everybody. So I just really want to thank Aviagen for doing this. You know, I think I learned something in every one of these, regardless of how many I've sat through. And, you know, more than anything, it's the interaction with people. And that's what I want y'all to remember, right? Is every single person you interact with is your network that you establish in an industry that is relatively small. You know, I mean, yes, it's a very large global production group, but you really begin to meet people, and those are the people that you will interact with for the rest of your career. So, you know, I appreciate Aviagen doing this, and I, you know, wanted to say too, Aviagen stepped up to be a supporter for our department during this whole, you know, possibility of a merger. So we appreciate that support. It's going to be great, you know, a contribution that can go to student programs as well as support, you know, some research efforts. So thank you again to everybody for doing that.
So those are companies we like to send you to, students. We like to send you to companies that support the department. So keep that in mind. But again, we want to thank all of you for taking time to be here, students included. I know that, you know, in the life of a college student, you're busy as well. And when you take, like somebody said at the beginning, when you take time to take advantage of these kind of opportunities and network and improve yourself, you're putting yourself in that, you know, sought after candidate field. So we appreciate everybody. We hope that everybody has a good night, and you can be expecting a follow-up email from me, like I said, tomorrow with everybody's contact info, so you can keep the conversation going. So again, thank y'all so much. You have a good night, and we'll talk to you soon.
See you folks. Have a great evening.
Bye.
Thanks,
Thank
Mark.
you.
Thanks, everyone.